Wow.
So Brian, the reason why I want to go over your options for the exterior is because we're a full service exterior company. So we're not just a painting company. If you're a painter, then all you have to offer is paint. But being that we're a full service exterior company, there's a few options that we could do for the exterior. And I want to get a better understanding as to what your plans are for this home, what your interests are, so I can tailor the exact option for you, okay? Especially financially. So the best way to evaluate your options is you have the option itself of what you're going to do to the exterior. Then you have the cost now of that option, like what is the present cost. And then what is going to be the cost over time. You know, a lot of people, they really are very much concerned about the cost now. What they don't think about many times is the cost over time.
Correct.
And that's a very important piece of this factor, right? So it's a very important factor. So my question for you, Brian, is how long would you say you plan to stay in this house?
I don't think we have any immediate plans on moving. We're probably going to stay here for probably 15 going on 20 years.
15 to 20 years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's just use that 20 number, okay? So you're going to be here 20 years. All right? So the first option that you can do, which I'm sure you've heard of and most people know, is paint. Right? Paint has been one of the most popular options for years and years and years and years. Now, paint has evolved a lot over the most recent decades. Are you familiar at all with paint materials?
Not so much.
Not so much? Okay. So I'll give you a little bit of background here. So before 1979, paints were lead-based. And they were actually great in the sense of how long they would last, right? They would last 20 plus years. A lead-based paint job was one of the best options that you can do in the home. In addition to that, it was a breathable material. Okay, so your walls can breathe because they need to do so. And it would last you really, really long, and it was pretty price efficient, okay? After 1979, they outlawed the lead-based paints because of the toxicity of lead, and then they introduced oil-based paints. Now, oil-based paints wouldn't last quite as long. You wouldn't get 20 years out of it, but you'd get a solid 10, maybe stretching it out to like 15 years. And again, it was still a breathable material. But in 2010, they made all oil-based paints illegal as well for VOC reasons and environmental reasons. So fast forward to present day, when you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, what are you going to find? You're going to find that all paints are water-based, right? They're actually 70% water, and I'll write that down for you. So you have about 70% water in there. The balance of 30% will either be a latex or an acrylic. Okay, maybe you go to Home Depot, you look at the shelves, you'll see like acrylic. You read the ingredients, what's mostly in there? Water, right? But we don't have access to those materials much anymore, okay? Now, with the materials that we have available today, there are two approaches to getting a paint job. You can either do like a cheap spray over where you kind of get a college student, no license, no insurance, they just paint over the house. And then what you can do is you can get a professional paint job. This is a proper company with an office. They're licensed. They carry insurance. They're going to do the right prep work. They're going to sand all the wood down. They're going to replace anything as needed, whether it's bad wood. They're going to do the stucco repair. And that's what we call a professional paint job, okay? And I'm actually curious, when we walked around the house, you get an idea of the size. How much would you guess a professional paint job in today's day and age would cost for your entire exterior?
Maybe like 12 grand?
12 grand? You know what? You're actually right in the ballpark. You're on the lower end of the spectrum, but still in the ballpark. It's about 12 to 15K in today's dollars, okay? Now, what's interesting is because of the limitation of the material, even if the painting company was the best painter, right? Even if I were to do it myself to my own home or you to your own home, the max amount of time that it's going to last, and therefore that this is how long they warranty it, is going to be about 3 to 5 years, believe it or not. And again, it's not the painter's fault, right? They're going to do their job professionally. Bob the painter is incredible. He's been doing it for 40 years. But it's just because of the material that he's limited to, that's the max amount of time that he can warranty his work for. So again, that's looking at the cost now. Now let's visit how long that would be over time, or how much that would be over time. So if we were to look at it, let's just go with the lower end, 12K. So we're going to pay 12K now. Then in 5 years, right? Do you think the paint job is going to be 12K, or is it going to be like maybe a little closer to like 14?
Probably 14.
Okay, so we're going to pay 14. 5 years after that, right? It's going to be, do you think it's going to be 14? Do you think it's more like 16, 17?
Probably 16.
16, okay. And then you're going to have another 2, right? Because this is now in 5 years, in 10 years. Now in 15 years, you're going to spend, let's just say 18. Okay, and then let's just say you sold the house in 20 years. Well, you're going to want to get the best market value, so you're going to hire a painter, right? And that's going to probably cost you closer to 20. So you have, 20 plus 18 is 38, plus another 48 plus 6 is 54. Now you're at 68 plus 12. You're at 80 grand. Okay, so you're at $80,000 over the 20 years. Now let's just say you're like, Levi, I'm not going to keep my house that well maintained. I'm going to shrink it up a little bit. Instead of painting 5 times, I'm going to paint 3. So you're going to let it be like peeled and all that faded out. You're going to stretch it. That's still going to be $36K plus 16, 36. That's 46, $52K. So safe to say that you're definitely going to be spending between 52 and 80K over the next 20 years. And that sounds crazy, right? And by the way, just so you know, that's crazy across the board for all homeowners, because homeowners are used to painting with whether it's an oil base or OG lead that would last a very long time, right? But that's just what it is today. Now, the second option you can do is what's called a color coat. All right, I don't know if you're familiar with what a color coat is, but a color coat is basically, instead of throwing a cheap paint onto the house, because again, paint is, cheap material, it's kind of like renting, right? You're renting your paint job essentially. So instead of doing that, we're gonna sandblast the final coat of your stucco off of your walls, because stucco is made up of 3 layers: the scratch coat, the brown coat, and the color coat. So we're gonna sandblast it off. It's a big job. You gotta move out of the house. Your neighbors are not gonna like it, but we get it all off, and then we do a final coat, right? I'll tell you right now, it's a pretty pricey job. You're looking at about 30 to 40K to do a sandblasting. But the good news is that a good quality color coat could last you anywhere between 12, maybe you might even get lucky enough to have it last enough time before you sold the home. Technically, they warranty it for 10. But you might be able to stretch it. In some cases, it does fall off after 10. The reason why it's limited to 10 is because new stucco never bonds to original stucco. Just like you'll see, windows, when they install windows and they come to stucco and they patch it up, all of a sudden it separates. It's called a cold joint. Same thing with additions. You'll see it many times. Because one has fully contracted over time and stucco contracts over time, so they don't effectively bond, okay? But let's just say you're going to do it one time. The problem is even if we do a color coat and it's going to last you the full 20 years you plan to be here, which I don't think it will, but let's be conservative, we still need a paint, right? What about all the trim on the house? And if we just broke down a paint job for just the trim, we know that the whole house is 12 to 15K. So let's just say it's going to be about 7 to do the trim, okay? And you're going to do that wood job 3 times, okay? That's still another 21,000. So we have let's just say let's be conservative, 30K on the low end, right, of the color coat. And then the 3 paint jobs for the wood, another 21K, you're going to equal out to be $51,000. Okay, maybe better than paint slightly, but not great. The third option, which I don't think you're at that point, if the house has gotten to be really, really bad, people will do a full restucco. A restucco is where they literally take all 3 layers off the house. They're taking it down to the bare studs. All right, you cannot be in the home, of course. You probably have to be in a hotel for a week, maybe 2, and they rebuild the stucco from scratch. Okay, it's a very big job. Probably takes 2, maybe 3 weeks to complete. There's a lot of material usage. There's permits that need to be pulled. It's a massive, massive job. A full restucco is anywhere between 50 and 60K. Again, I don't think that that's a good option for you, but I'm just putting anything and everything that's out there. And don't forget, with the restucco, have we solved our wood problem?
No.
So add the 21K for the wood, right? All right. So these are all options that need recurring maintenance for the most part. There are 2 options out there that are one-time options, okay? The first one is vinyl siding. I don't know if you're familiar with vinyl siding. Have you seen vinyl siding at all?
Not so
No?
much, no.
Kind of looks very mobile homey. It's not super popular. I'll show you some pictures actually. Here, let me just show you real quick. There's a picture of vinyl siding.
okay.
I'm sure you've seen it maybe like on a coastal home or something like that. So vinyl siding is actually a good option in terms of that it's a one-time fix if you're using quality material. However, it's extremely expensive. To vinyl wrap an entire house, including the soffits, the eaves, and the fascia and everything, you're looking at about 60 to 70K. But again, as long as you're using a good quality material, because there are two options. I mean, there's cheap vinyls, like cheap lawn furniture that fade and crack over the years, but let's assume you're going with a pure virgin vinyl, quality siding, that's gonna last, okay? And that's gonna be a one-time fix. The other lifetime option would be textured coating. Have you ever heard of textured coating? Or text coat, maybe?
Not so much.
Not
no.
so much? Okay. So, textured coating has been around since the 80s. When the quality of paints has started to go down, homeowners need an alternative. And that was when the market started coming up with textured coating, okay? So the way textured coating works, and I'll just write it down here for you, is it kind of is like a paint in terms of that you're not changing the substrate, you're not removing your stucco, you're not putting on a vinyl siding. It's sprayed on, right? And there are 2 coats of armor, but the material does not contain water or acrylic or latex. It's a lifetime coating system that is 30 times thicker than a traditional paint. For that reason, it comes with a lifetime warranty. The warranty covers chipping, flaking, peeling, and cracking. It has bonders. It also has waterproofing materials in there. So it'll actually waterproof your home, both your stucco and your wood. It doesn't fade. It is also energy efficient. There are products out there called CoolWall or CoolLife, and they implemented that once it became energy efficient. There are some other things about it, like it's a mold and mildew resistant, but think about a very high-end, very thick coating system that they're spraying onto your exterior walls and wood that are not changing the way it looks, but it's just an extremely thick coating system. Okay, that's essentially what it is, right? Think of it as like a lifetime paint product.
Yeah.
And the way textured coating works is that you do need to be a certified applicator to install it, but once that stuff goes on, you never need to paint the house again, okay? So it's a one-time fix as well. And in terms of pricing, of course it's gonna be more than a basic paint job, right? Because again, specialty applicators, high quality materials, it's not sold on the public market, right? You need to get it straight from the manufacturer, you need to be factory trained. But because you're only doing it one time, you're gonna save a bunch of money versus painting time and time again, okay? Of course, safe to say you're gonna save money versus color coat, restucco, or vinyl siding, right? So those are all the options that you can do to the exterior. I mean, are there any other options that I may have missed? No. Anything you see your neighbors have done that are not on this page?
No.
No, okay. So based on those options, Brian, which did you want me to measure for? Did you want me to measure for a cheap paint job that's going to be more expensive over the long term? Or did you want me to measure for textured coating, which is going to last and you'll only have to do it one time over the next 20 years?
Probably the texture coating. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do the texture coating.
All right, no problem. So I'll go ahead and measure for the texture coating. Just so you know, Brian, the company asked me to do 3 things when I come here, right? So I'll go ahead and measure for you. Afterwards, I'll quickly run through my company credentials, like our license, bond, insurance. I'll show you some samples of the material itself and how it works, and then we'll go over the numbers, right? So if everything checks out, if you like the company, the materials, and most importantly, if it's affordable, then great. I'm here to earn your business today, and most importantly, fix up the exterior of your home. If it's not affordable, don't worry about it. That's totally okay. We can always shake hands and part as friends. That sound fair?
Sounds fair.
Fair. All right, perfect. Let me go ahead and get measuring. I'll probably need maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds
okay?
good. Okay.
All right.